The writ of possession is at the very end. All of this starts with, one, in the case of rent not being paid, the rent isn't paid. There's some communications going between the landlord and the tenant about, hey, where's my rent? And then you get this notice to vacate. And then once you don't vacate, the landlord can go and file a summary ejectment proceeding, which is another way of saying filing a court case against you, saying you owe me this money, you have not paid your rent, I want you evicted out of my property. And usually that's going to be in small claims court before a magistrate.
Well, your rent notice is basically a magistrate summons with a complaint and summary ejectment attached to it. That comes from the clerk's office to the sheriff's office, and what that is basically the notification for the hearing for the landlord to start the procedure to get their property back. We'll receive those from the clerk's office. The deputies will take those and they will attempt to make contact with the defendant or defendants that's listed on the magistrate summons. If we can't make contact, we will post, as statute allows, for the court date. And once that is returned, they have been served for their court date. Once we've served it, they'll have to call the court. If they don't understand something about it, that would fall more under calling the clerk's office to find out if there's any discrepancy about the court date or if there's any problem that they may have with the court date. They would need to contact the clerk's office because we're actually just serving notice of the court date.
That's the first part where we're involved. Only thing we're doing is serving the paperwork just like any other lawsuit. Then you go before the magistrate, the landlord presents evidence, you can present evidence, or the renter can present evidence, a decision is entered. You have a right to appeal that decision to the district court. If you appeal it, there's some procedures involved with that. And then if you lose that appeal, or if you don't appeal it or contest it, what you're going to have is a judgment being entered against you. And that's when the writ of possession comes in.
Once the sheriff's office receives the writ of possession for real property, the first thing that's done is a notification will be sent out of the date of the eviction to the defendant or the defendants. Second thing we do is we're going to notify the plaintiff of the date and time that we'll be out there to facilitate the padlock. Once the deputy arrives on scene, the property will be taken from the defendant, turned over to the plaintiff. The defendant will be served the paperwork if they're there, but we're there to take custody of the property from the defendant and turn it back over to the plaintiff as the court has ordered.
Really, the legal process is the entire court case before writ of possession is requested by a landlord and delivered to the sheriff for execution. Writ of possession is basically carrying out the judgment of a court. Just like if you were sued for a motor vehicle accident or some other small claims proceeding, when the judge enters a decision, it becomes a judgment, and then you go collect on the judgment. And then once it is issued by the clerk of court, it's delivered to the sheriff for execution. The reason why the sheriff's office is involved is because when someone is moved out of their property, it's a very tense situation, and the sheriff is involved to make sure that it's a peaceful transfer of property.
As in all civil process, the sheriff's office is just enforcing the court order. The court order is that the plaintiff is to receive their property back. The deputy will go out there, the property will be taken out of the defendant's possession, placed back with the plaintiff as the court has ordered, and we're there to also make sure that that's a peaceful transition during that process.
But the law requires the sheriff to do this, and in fact, if the sheriff doesn't do it, he could be sued. So you should really take some steps right at the beginning of all of this when you first have difficulty with paying your rent. Because when it gets to the sheriff's office, it's too late. So what can you do? In several communities throughout the state of North Carolina, including Durham, there are rent assistance programs. North Carolina, along with the United Way, has developed what's called NC 211. If you pick up the phone and dial 211, you're connected to a resource hotline, and you can tell them what your problems are, whether it's paying rent, paying your mortgage, making utility payments, need of food, and they can connect you with resources in your community. Here in Durham, you have the legal clinic at North Carolina Central. You may also have law clinics over at UNC, Duke, over in Raleigh at Campbell, where you can get some free legal advice. You have Legal Aid of North Carolina, but if you go to their website, they have literature on there on what the eviction process is, what is a summary ejectment, what you should present to court. Can you get out of it? Can you pay your rent? Can you settle this? What to do if you want to get into a settlement. Here at the Sheriff's Office, we know about the process, but we can't give you legal advice. State government is well aware of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on individuals, and so there's some relief efforts being made. And so really what I'm saying is that the solution to a lot of this is before you get to the writ of possession. There are community organizations out there that will help you with rent assistance. The General Assembly, which is our state legislature, is looking at some solutions. Our local officials may be looking at some solutions. Churches may be available. So when you get into that situation of not being able to pay your rent, making utility payments, not being able to put food on your table, oftentimes we panic, we become concerned, and that is the moment where you don't close yourself in. That's when you need to go ahead and ask for the help that may be out there. Because if you act quickly and at the beginning of the process, you won't get into the court system and you wind up staying in your home. Because by the time it gets to the sheriff's office with the writ of possession, there's not much, if anything, that can be done, and our hands are tied.
Hi, Toby Keith here. Like most of us, I love driving, but too many people die every year on America's roads. So always buckle up, slow down, drive sober, stay focused on driving.
Every day, officers enforce traffic laws to keep our families safe on the road. So drive smart.
And do your part to save lives.
A message from the National Sheriff's Association.
I'm a firefighter.
A teacher.
I'm a farmer.
A manager.
I'm a barber.
A waitress.
A student.
A mom.
We're all part of your community. We live in small towns and big cities.
On farmland
And concrete.
Every day we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little details that make up our everyday.
The morning walk.
That familiar engine firing up.
The bus stop friends.
a hot cup of coffee.
That guy who can never seem to parallel park.
Every day brings surprises.
A flat tire.
Midday traffic.
Bus delays. Again. There's always something unexpected.
And honestly, that's fine.
It's when you experience a moment of uncertainty.
Something you know shouldn't be there.
Or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right.
These are the moments to take a pause.
Because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not.
It's not about paranoia.
Or being afraid.
It's about standing up and protecting our communities.
One detail at a time.
Because a lot of little details can become a pattern.
We
We trust our instincts.
Just like you should.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
We all play a role in keeping our communities safe.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It is the exploitation of a person through force, fraud, or coercion. Human smuggling and human trafficking are different crimes. Human smuggling is the illegal movement of someone across a border. Human trafficking is the illegal exploitation of a person. Human trafficking is about exploitation, not transportation. Human trafficking is a highly profitable crime and a violation of human rights. It occurs in every part of the world, including here in the United States. It happens in our big cities, our suburbs, and even in rural towns. It can happen to anyone. Human trafficking victims can be U.S. citizens or from other countries. Victims can be any age, race, or gender, but one thing they share is that they are vulnerable to being exploited. There are different types of human trafficking, including sex trafficking, forced labor, and domestic servitude. Sex trafficking victims are manipulated or forced against their will to engage in sex acts for money. Sex traffickers might use violence, threats, manipulation, or the promise of love and affection to lure victims. Truck stops, hotel rooms, rest areas, street corners, clubs, private residences. These are just some of the places where victims are forced to sell sex. Any person under the age of 18 involved in a commercial sex act is considered a victim of human trafficking. No exceptions. Forced labor takes on many forms, and it happens here in the US and overseas. Through force, fraud, or coercion, victims are made to work for little or no pay. Very often, these victims are forced to manufacture or grow the products that we use and consume every day. Victims of forced labor could be found in factories, on farms, doing construction work, and more. Victims of domestic servitude are hidden in plain sight, forced to work in homes across the United States. Their traffickers sometimes take their identification papers and travel documents in order to limit their freedom. They are prisoners, working as nannies, maids, or domestic help. Every year in the United States, thousands of human trafficking cases are reported, but many more go unnoticed. That's because human trafficking is a hidden crime. Victims might be afraid to come forward, or we may not recognize the signs, even if it's happening right in front of us. We need to bring this crime out of the shadows. That's why the Department of Homeland Security created the Blue Campaign, to take a stand against modern-day slavery and help combat this heinous crime by raising awareness of human trafficking around the country. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. So what can you do to stop human trafficking? Visit the Blue Campaign website to learn more about the signs and indicators of human trafficking. Share this video on social media to help bring this crime out of the shadows. Be an informed consumer. Know who makes the products you buy and the food you eat to help keep slavery-tainted items out of your home. And finally, recognize and report suspected human trafficking. You can submit a tip to federal law enforcement online or by phone. For victim support, you can call or text the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. Help us bring this crime out of the shadows and into the light. Join the Blue Campaign. One voice, one mission, end human trafficking.
Hey, it's us, MelinKota, and we're here with your hot weather tips for you and your pet.
It is now officially summer here in North Carolina. So, Melinda, what are some things that you're seeing?
Well, it's definitely official. There's no snow in the forecast. And what we are seeing is, of course, with COVID quarantine, we're seeing a lot of folks out walking their pets, and that is fantastic. What we want you to keep in mind is that as the temperatures rise, the temperature of the pavement also rises. So when you're walking your pet, please keep in mind that the pavement could be hot to your pet's feet. One way to check that is to put your hand on the pavement, hold it for 5 seconds, and if it's too hot and you feel like you need to remove your hand, keep that in mind that your pet would have to walk on that. So consider walking in the grass or another area where it won't be so hot for your pet. We're also seeing people take their pets for car rides in the car as they're getting out and about. Dakota, tell them how that can be detrimental.
So the problem with that is that when you turn off your AC, the car can quickly heat up. Just think, if it's hot outside, it's going to get hot in that car really quickly. And if you leave your animal unattended in the car, it could actually cause permanent brain damage to them. So we ask that if you're not able to leave your car running with the AC on for your pet, that you leave them at home. Some signs of heat distress in dogs are panting with heavy saliva, reddish eyes, and lethargy. So if you are out and about and you see any dogs in cars with those signs, give us a call immediately. Also, since we're outside more, Melinda, what are some requirements for the dogs when they're outside?
Well, folks like to have their pets outside in the yard, and that's great. And it is not illegal for your pet to be outside, obviously. However, we want to make sure that you're providing your pet with adequate water, adequate shade, a place to get out from under the sun, and make sure, of course, that your dog has adequate shelter in case when you are gone or you're not there, we have a sudden North Carolina snowstorm. It could happen, folks. Trust me.
So that wraps up our heat tips for you this time, and we'll see you around next time.
Stay cool and still stay distant.
Durham County Sheriff's Office, where's your emergency? Okay, we'll get deputies on the way.
Order! Move!
How y'all doing this morning? Come on through.
I'm Durham County Sheriff Clarence Burkhead, and we want you to join our team. Honor, duty, service. If you have what it takes, our recruiting starts now.
Falling behind on your bills? Even if you owe more than you can handle, you still have rights. Most legit debt collectors follow the rules, but bad debt collectors don't. They break the law. So if you get a call like this,
If you don't pay, we will have you arrested and deported.
or this,
This is your final warning. Pay up now or we'll contact your employer and make them pay.
hang up and report it to the Federal Trade Commission. You have the right to be treated fairly no matter what. That means debt collectors can't use abusive language, threaten violence, or harass you. Or call you before 8 in the morning or after 9 at night. They can't lie or pretend to be someone they're not.
I'm an attorney and will take legal action if you don't pay this debt right away.
Or get you to pay a debt that doesn't even exist. They can't have you arrested or deported or tell anyone about your debt. Bad debt collectors like to knock you off your guard to get an advantage, create a sense of urgency, and rush you. They'll say anything to get you to pay right now. Instead, hang up and report it to the Federal Trade Commission at ftc.gov/complaint. We've stopped a lot of bad debt collectors. Help us stop more. For more information about debt collection, visit consumer.gov/debt.
What we're still seeing is a lot of the family members calling, supposed family members calling, saying that they're in some kind of legal trouble or that they have caused somebody to go into a hospital and they need to pay a bill, something like that. And they're feeling rushed to send money instead of being able to contact that family member and see if this is actual, true, or accurate. We're also seeing the Publishers Clearinghouse scams. Hey, listen, you're going to need to pay taxes on this money in order to get it. Or, hey, you've won a grant, and in order to get the money to you, you're going to have to pay A, B, or C. In doing so, these people are getting conned out of thousands of dollars, and they're not understanding that Publishers Clearinghouse is not going to give you money unless you invest into their program. Grants aren't going to come to you if you don't apply for grants, especially you'll see people saying that you want a government grant. Not a thing. So I think you just need to be more understanding and more aware of these phone calls that you're getting, especially when it's not something that you initiated. What I've always done and I always told people is just ignore the phone call, send it to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. If it's somebody that needs to get in touch with you, they'll have another avenue to get in touch with you. Everybody always has additional contacts or another person that they could reach out to you by. They can do it that way if it's an emergency, or otherwise send you a text message, leave you a voicemail, things like that. Gives you time to research what it is. Not only that, but to verify that, this is a correct phone number for the person that you think it is. If it's some sort of banking institution, credit card company, always follow up with the customer service lines there. You can find their number on the back of your cards. You can always find their number on their actual internet sites. Make sure that it is a secured site that you're looking at to verify. People can come up with many different ploys, send you different emails or something like that. And the emails may look a little off. The language may be a little off. The logos may look a little fuzzy or not quite right. That I would call customer service, the number that is actually listed on your card, not the number that's listed in the email, not the number that is listed on the phone call, but the actual customer service number listed on the card or their actual website, and call and verify whatever the issue may be. A lot of people are ghosting numbers, are internet-based numbers, and it is extremely hard to track. That being said, if you don't know these people, if you don't do business with this particular company, really and truly, there's no need to return phone calls. There's no need to get sucked into it. And if you always have questions, you can always call the sheriff's office. If it seems a little wonky to you, we're more than happy to verify stuff.
Would it surprise you to learn that millions of computers in the U.S. are infected with malware? That's a lot of computers. So, what's malware and why should you care? Malware, short for malicious software, includes viruses and spyware that get installed on your computer or mobile device without you knowing it. Criminals use malware to steal personal information and commit fraud. For example, they may use malware to steal the login information for your online accounts, or to hijack your computer and use it to send spam. An infected computer can lead to serious problems like identity theft. The good news? There's a lot you can do to protect yourself and your computer. One of the most important steps you can take: install security software from a reliable company and set it to update automatically. The bad guys constantly develop new ways to attack your computer, so your software must be up to date to work. Set your operating system and your web browser to update automatically too. If you're not sure how, use the help function and search for automatic updates. Don't buy security software in response to unexpected calls or messages, especially if they say they scanned your computer and found malware. Scammers send messages like these to trick you into buying worthless software, or worse, downloading malware. What else can you do? Use a pop-up blocker, and don't click on links and pop-ups. Don't click on links or open attachments in emails unless you know what they are, even if the emails seem to be from friends or family. Download software only from websites you know and trust. Free stuff may sound appealing, but free downloads can hide malware. Make sure your web browser's security setting is high enough to detect unauthorized downloads. For example, use at least the medium security setting. Even if you take precautions, malware can find its way onto your computer. So be on the lookout for these signs. Your computer runs slowly, drains its battery quickly, displays unexpected errors or crashes. It won't shut down or restart. It serves a lot of pop-ups, takes you to web pages you didn't visit, changes your homepage, or creates new icons or toolbars without your permission. If you suspect malware, stop doing things that require passwords or personal info, such as online shopping or banking. Use a different computer, maybe one at work or at your local library, to change your passwords. Update your security software and run a system scan. Delete files it flags as malware. If you can't fix the problem on your own, get help from a professional. Your computer manufacturer or internet service provider may offer free tech support. If not, contact a company or retail store that provides tech support. Keep in mind, the most important thing you can do to prevent malware is to keep your computer software up to date. And remember, it's easy to find trusted information about computer security. Just visit onguardonline.gov, the federal government site, to help you stay safe, secure, and responsible online.
Operation Lifesaver's mission is to live up to its name. Since 1972, we've been the nonprofit rail safety education organization of people dedicated to eliminating death and injuries around railroad tracks and trains. All across our country for almost 4 decades, Operation Lifesaver's trained network of volunteer presenters are working proudly in communities like yours. Our safety message is delivered to thousands of people yearly, reminding them about the dangers always present near trains and train tracks, and offering them safe ways to navigate across highway-rail intersections. Operation Lifesaver presenters have reached people all across the United States, from civic groups, town assemblies, trade shows, youth programs, community events and fairs, and many, many other groups where we live, work, and play. Our presenters have been spreading a rail safety message for the benefit of all of us. We've seen an 80% drop in vehicle train incidents since Operation Lifesaver began its work. But there are challenges on the horizon. There are more injuries and fatalities involving trespassers than vehicle-train collisions. Trespassers include both people walking on or near the tracks, as well as riding trains illegally. This becomes more crucial as train traffic in America is expected to nearly double by 2035. As the 21st century surges, rail travel is the fastest growth area in public transportation. Whether it's freight, passenger, or high-speed rail, the public will be experiencing more train traffic than ever before, and the safety challenges with that increase will require even greater public attention. Most of us don't realize that trains are wider and faster than they look, closer than they appear, and at 12 million pounds can take 18 football fields to come to a stop. That's a mile or more. And today's high-tech distractions wreak havoc in train incidents. Over 140,000 miles of crisscrossing track is traversed daily by texting teens, MP3 pedestrians, mobile technology drivers, and smartphone commuters. Modern life picks up the pace for all drivers, no matter whether they're beginning or experienced. Professional truck drivers or school bus drivers, EMS responders or law enforcement officers. And pedestrians trespassing on the tracks may think they've found a shortcut to their destination, but what they're more likely to find is disaster. The risks are all too real, and the success of our mission is up to each of us. Operation Lifesaver's presenters are personally dedicated to getting the safety message out across all 50 states. The difference starts with you.